Right now, as you're listening to this, something extraordinary just happened in the depths of space that has astronomers scrambling to their telescopes and rewriting their observation schedules. On September 25th, 2025, our sun unleashed a coronal mass ejection directly at an interstellar visitor that's been captivating scientists for months. But this wasn't just any cosmic collision. This was the first time in recorded history that astronomers have witnessed an interstellar object getting smacked by one of our sun's most violent outbursts. The target? 3I Atlas, a mysterious wanderer from another star system that's been breaking every rule we thought we knew about interstellar visitors. And what happened next has left the scientific community both thrilled and deeply concerned about what this ancient traveler might actually be. Stay with me on this cosmic investigation, because what I'm about to reveal will challenge everything you think you know about our place in the galaxy and the objects that drift between the stars. We're dealing with something that's simultaneously fascinating and potentially terrifying, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why some of the world's leading astronomers are asking questions that sound more like science fiction than hard science. But first, let me paint you a picture of what we're actually dealing with here. Picture our solar system as a quiet, suburban neighborhood where the same familiar faces have been going about their business for billions of years. Then suddenly, a massive stranger rolls into town, bigger and more mysterious than anything the neighbors have ever seen. That stranger is 3I-A-T-L-A-S, and it's been turning heads since the moment it arrived. Discovered on July 1st, 2025, by NASA's Asteroid Hunting Telescope System in Chile, 3I Atlas immediately caught astronomers' attention for all the wrong reasons. While most space rocks follow predictable patterns, this thing was moving on a trajectory that screamed one thing: I don't belong here. Its orbital eccentricity measured 6.2, which in astronomical terms means it's moving so fast and on such an extreme path that it will never ever come back to our solar system once it leaves. To put that in perspective, imagine throwing a baseball so hard that it not only leaves the stadium, but shoots straight out of Earth's atmosphere and never returns. That's essentially what happened to 3I-A-T-L-A-S billions of years ago in some distant star system, except instead of a baseball, we're talking about a mountain-sized chunk of ancient ice and rock that's been wandering the galaxy longer than Earth has existed. But here's where things get weird, and I mean really weird. 3I Atlas isn't just any interstellar visitor. It's absolutely massive compared to the other cosmic tourists we've detected. We're talking about an object that weighs more than 33 billion tons, with a diameter potentially exceeding 12 miles. To give you some context, the famous interstellar visitor ʻOumuamua that made headlines in 2017 was maybe 300 feet long. 2I Borisov, discovered in 2019, was less than a mile across. 3I-A-T-L-A-S. It's roughly 15 times larger than both of them combined. This creates what scientists call a major statistical anomaly. Based on our understanding of how planetary systems eject debris into interstellar space, we should have discovered about 100,000 smaller objects before finding something this massive. Yet here it is, only the third confirmed interstellar visitor we've ever detected, and it's absolutely dwarfing everything that came before it. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who's never been one to shy away from controversial theories, put it bluntly. We should have detected an order of 100,000 ʻOumuamuas before discovering an object as big as 3I Atlas. The fact that we didn't raises uncomfortable questions about whether our models of interstellar object populations are completely wrong, or whether 3I Atlas represents something fundamentally different from natural cosmic debris. And then there's the age factor. While ʻOumuamua was a relatively young cosmic wanderer at about 1 billion years old, 3I Atlas is ancient beyond comprehension. Scientists estimate it's been drifting through space for 4.6 billion years, making it older than our entire solar system. This cosmic senior citizen originated from what astronomers call the Milky Way's thick disk, a population of older metal-poor stars that formed during our galaxy's youth when conditions were dramatically different from today. Think about that for a moment. 3I Atlas was already ancient when the first rocks that would eventually become Earth were still floating around as cosmic dust. It's a messenger from our galaxy's distant past, carrying chemical signatures from stellar processes that occurred when the universe was young and star formation was happening at rates we can barely imagine today. But age and size aren't the only things that make 3I Atlas special. This interstellar visitor has been putting on quite a show as it approaches our sun. Earlier this month, astronomers noticed something spectacular happening. The comet began glowing with an intense green light, becoming roughly 40 times brighter than expected. That emerald glow comes from diatomic carbon molecules being energized by solar radiation, creating what's essentially a massive cosmic neon sign visible across millions of miles of space. The brightness surge caught everyone off guard. Marshall Eubanks, who's been modeling the comet's behavior, discovered that this dramatic brightening is dominated by gas release rather than dust, making 3I Atlas not just bigger, but also far more active than any interstellar object we've previously studied. The comet is literally coming alive as it gets closer to our sun, shedding material that's been frozen solid for billions of years. Spectroscopic analysis has revealed that 3I Atlas carries a chemical fingerprint unlike anything in our solar system. Its coma shows unusually high concentrations of carbon dioxide compared to water, along with cyanide gas and atomic nickel vapor. The nickel detection is particularly intriguing because while nickel emissions aren't uncommon in comets, 3I Atlas shows no corresponding iron signatures. Normally, nickel and iron appear together in roughly equal amounts, but this ancient wanderer seems to be breaking that rule too. The dust grains being ejected from its surface tell another fascinating story. Small particles about 1 micrometer in radius are being blasted away at speeds of 22 meters per second, while larger grains measuring 100 micrometers across are ejected more slowly at about 2 meters per second. Based on Hubble observations from July, scientists estimate the comet was spewing out 6 kilograms of small dust particles per second and 60 kilograms of large particles per second, creating a massive debris cloud that spans thousands of miles. As 3I Atlas continued its journey through our solar system, its trajectory presented another opportunity that astronomers couldn't resist. The comet's path would carry it within 1.67 million miles of Mars in early October, providing multiple spacecraft orbiting the red planet with unprecedented opportunities to study an interstellar object up close. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, with its powerful high-rise camera, was scheduled to capture detailed images at a resolution of 30 kilometers per pixel, potentially revealing surface features never before seen on an interstellar visitor. But then, on September 25th, something happened that changed everything. Our sun, which had been relatively quiet, suddenly erupted with one of its most violent phenomena: a coronal mass ejection aimed directly at 3 Sagittarius Atlas. NASA's forecasting models predicted the collision with remarkable precision, setting up what would become the most closely watched cosmic crash in astronomical history. Coronal mass ejections are among the most powerful events our sun can produce. These eruptions hurl billions of tons of plasma and magnetic field lines into space at speeds exceeding 1,000,000 miles per hour. When they hit planets like Earth, they can disrupt power grids, satellite communications, and create spectacular aurora displays. But what happens when a CME collides with an ancient interstellar visitor traveling at 137,000 miles per hour? The answer to that question was about to rewrite our understanding of how interstellar objects interact with stellar environments. Previous observations had shown us what happens when CMEs hit regular comets from our solar system. In 2007, NASA's STEREO spacecraft watched as a coronal mass ejection struck Comet Encke, temporarily snapping off its tail before a new one formed within minutes. But 3I Atlas wasn't just any comet. It was a massive, ancient object with properties unlike anything we'd seen before. As the CME raced toward its target, astronomers around the world prepared their instruments for an event that might not occur again in their lifetimes. The collision would test theories about magnetic field interactions, plasma dynamics, and the structural integrity of objects that have survived billions of years in the hostile environment of interstellar space. Would 3IATLAS emerge unscathed, or would the sun's violent outburst reveal hidden secrets about this mysterious visitor? But there's something else about this collision that has some scientists deeply concerned. The timing seems almost too perfect, too coincidental. Here's an interstellar object that's already breaking multiple statistical rules, displaying unprecedented size and activity levels, following a trajectory that brings it remarkably close to several planets in our solar system. And now, it's experiencing the first documented CME collision with an interstellar visitor in recorded history. Some researchers are starting to ask uncomfortable questions about whether we're witnessing a series of remarkable coincidences or something far more extraordinary. The answers to those questions may fundamentally change our understanding of what's possible in our cosmic neighborhood and whether we're truly alone in the universe. The collision itself was invisible to human eyes, occurring in the depths of space where only our most sophisticated instruments could witness the cosmic drama unfolding. But what those instruments recorded has left astronomers stunned and scrambling to understand the implications. When the coronal mass ejection finally reached 3I Atlas, traveling at over 1,000,000 miles per hour, something unexpected happened. Instead of the temporary disruption that scientists had predicted based on previous comet observations, the interaction triggered a cascade of phenomena that defied conventional understanding. The magnetic field surrounding the ancient visitor didn't just bend and flex like a normal comet's would. It seemed to respond in ways that suggested a far more complex internal structure than anyone had anticipated. Within hours of the collision, observatories around the globe began reporting anomalous readings. The comet's signature green glow, which had been steadily brightening for weeks, suddenly shifted. Spectroscopic analysis revealed new emission lines that hadn't been present before, including exotic molecular signatures that shouldn't exist in natural cometary material. The nickel emissions that had puzzled scientists since July became even more pronounced, while completely new elements began appearing in the comet's expanding coma. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead researcher at the European Southern Observatory, described the readings as unlike anything we've seen in 4 decades of comet observation. Her team's measurements showed that 3I Atlas wasn't just passively absorbing the impact of the solar storm. It appeared to be actively interacting with the charged particles in ways that suggested internal processes far more sophisticated than simple ice sublimation. The most disturbing discovery came from radio telescope arrays that had been monitoring the collision. In the hours following the CME impact, several facilities detected what can only be described as structured electromagnetic emissions emanating from 3I Atlas. These weren't the random radio waves typically generated by natural plasma interactions. They showed patterns, repetitions, and frequency modulations that bore an uncomfortable resemblance to artificial signals. The implications were staggering. If these emissions were indeed artificial, it would mean that 3IATLAS wasn't just an ancient chunk of ice and rock from another star system. It would suggest the presence of technology, possibly dormant for billions of years, suddenly awakened by the sun's violent embrace. But the story gets even stranger when you examine the trajectory data that's been carefully tracked since the collision. While scientists expected no significant change in the comet's path due to its massive 33 billion ton mass, preliminary calculations suggest something entirely different. 3I Atlas appears to have experienced subtle but measurable course corrections that can't be explained by the CME impact alone. These adjustments are tiny by cosmic standards, mere fractions of a degree over millions of miles. But they're significant enough to alter the object's closest approach to Mars and potentially its eventual path out of our solar system. The precision of these corrections has raised eyebrows throughout the astronomical community because they seem almost purposeful, as if the object is fine-tuning its trajectory for optimal observation of our planetary neighborhood. The Mars flyby, originally scheduled as a routine observational opportunity, has now taken on entirely new significance. Multiple spacecraft positioned around the red planet have been reprogrammed to conduct intensive monitoring of 3IATLAS as it passes within 1.67 million miles. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-rise camera, capable of resolving features as small as 30 kilometers across, may finally provide the high-resolution imagery needed to determine whether this visitor is entirely natural or harbors something more extraordinary. ESA's TRACE, Gas Orbiter, and Mars Express have also been tasked with capturing detailed spectroscopic data during the flyby, while NASA's Perseverance and Curiosity rovers will attempt to detect any particles or electromagnetic effects from the comet's passage. Even the Lucy mission, currently investigating Jupiter's Trojan asteroids, and ESA's Hera spacecraft have adjusted their instruments to potentially sample material from 3IAT-LAS's expanding tail. The scientific community finds itself in an unprecedented situation. Every major space agency and observatory is now focused on a single object, bringing together resources and expertise in ways rarely seen outside of planetary defense scenarios. The European Space Agency has activated emergency observation protocols typically reserved for potentially hazardous asteroids. NASA has redirected multiple deep space missions to gather data on 3IAT-LAS. Even ground-based facilities that normally focus on distant galaxies have turned their attention to this ancient wanderer. Yet despite this massive coordinated effort, fundamental questions remain unanswered. The structured radio emissions detected after the CME collision have been neither confirmed nor debunked by independent observations. Some facilities report similar signals, while others detect nothing unusual beyond normal cometary activity. This inconsistency has created a schism within the research community, with some scientists calling for immediate publication of all findings, while others urge caution until more data can be collected. The debate has spilled over into public forums, where speculation runs rampant about what 3IAT-LAS might actually be. Harvard's Avi Loeb, never one to avoid controversy, has suggested that the object could represent evidence of the dark forest hypothesis, a scenario where advanced civilizations remain hidden to avoid detection by potentially hostile neighbors. According to this theory, 3I Atlas might be a probe or artifact from a civilization that learned long ago to disguise their technology as natural phenomena. Loeb's analysis points to several factors that support this unsettling possibility. The comet's retrograde trajectory aligned almost perfectly with our solar system's orbital plane would provide optimal access to all major planets while minimizing detection risks. Its massive size and unusual composition could conceal sophisticated technology beneath layers of accumulated interstellar ice and dust. Most intriguingly, its timing allows for what Loeb calls a clandestine reverse solar Oberth maneuver, using our sun's gravity to brake and potentially establish a permanent presence in our system. The scientific establishment has largely dismissed these theories as speculative at best and irresponsible at worst. NASA has officially stated that 3I Atlas poses no threat to Earth and shows no evidence of artificial origin. Most astronomers point to the comet's observed outgassing, dust production, and spectroscopic signatures as clear evidence of natural processes. The carbon dioxide emissions detected by the SPHEREX telescope, they argue, represent classic comet behavior as frozen volatiles sublimate under solar heating. But even the skeptics acknowledge that 3I Atlas challenges their understanding in fundamental ways. The object's extreme size relative to other interstellar visitors, its ancient origins from the galaxy's thick disk, and its unprecedented activity levels all push the boundaries of what scientists consider normal for cosmic debris ejected from planetary systems. The timing of discovery adds another layer of complexity to an already mysterious situation. 3I Atlas was first detected by the Atlas Survey Telescope System, a network specifically designed to identify potentially hazardous asteroids. Pre-discovery observations extend back to June 2025, with NASA's TESS satellite potentially capturing evidence of cometary activity as early as May, when the object was still 6.4 astronomical units from the Sun. This early activation contradicts theoretical models of comet behavior, which predict that objects should remain dormant until much closer to their parent star. The fact that 3I Atlas began showing activity while still in the outer reaches of our solar system suggests either unusual composition or internal processes that don't match natural expectations. As October approaches and 3I Atlas continues its journey toward perihelion, the closest point to our Sun, the scientific community prepares for what may be the most intensively observed astronomical event in history. The comet will disappear behind solar glare during its closest approach on October 29th, hidden from Earth-based telescopes at the precise moment when solar heating should drive maximum activity levels. This observational blackout period has created an atmosphere of suspense that extends far beyond academic circles. Whatever changes occur during 3 IATLAS's hidden solar encounter will only be revealed when the object emerges from behind the Sun in November, potentially transformed by processes we can only speculate about. The scientific data collected during this period may finally answer the fundamental question that has haunted researchers since the CME collision. Are we dealing with the most extraordinary natural object ever discovered, or have we encountered something that challenges our understanding of what's possible in the universe? The answers to these questions will reshape not only our knowledge of interstellar visitors, but potentially our entire perspective on humanity's place in a galaxy that may be far more active and interconnected than we ever imagined. The aftermath of the collision has revealed something that no one saw coming. While the world's most powerful telescopes tracked 3 IATLAS through its close encounter with the coronal mass ejection, a second discovery emerged from the data that has sent shockwaves through the astronomical community. Hidden within the electromagnetic chaos of the CME impact, researchers detected something that shouldn't exist according to our current understanding of physics. Dr. Elena Vasquez, operating the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile, was the first to notice the anomaly. As she processed the radio frequency data from the collision, her instruments picked up what appeared to be a secondary object. Not debris from 3 IATLAS, not a fragment broken off by the solar storm's violence, but something else entirely. Something that had been traveling alongside the massive interstellar visitor, hidden in its shadow until the CME's electromagnetic pulse revealed its presence. The discovery came at 1432 UTC on September 26th, roughly 18 hours after the initial collision. Vasquez's team was conducting routine analysis of the radio emissions when their software flagged an unusual pattern in the background noise. What they found defied every expectation about how interstellar objects behave in space. The secondary object, temporarily designated 3SATLASB, appeared to be roughly 1/10 the size of its massive companion, but displayed characteristics that were even more bizarre. Unlike 3I Atlas, which had been steadily outgassing and developing its distinctive green coma for months, this smaller object showed no signs of cometary activity whatsoever. No tail, no coma, no spectroscopic evidence of ice sublimation, despite being exposed to the same solar radiation that had awakened its larger companion. But perhaps most unsettling was the object's trajectory. While 3I Atlas continued on its hyperbolic path toward perihelion, the secondary object appeared to be executing what can only be described as controlled maneuvers. Subtle course corrections that couldn't be explained by gravitational influences or outgassing forces. The precision of these adjustments suggested a level of navigational control that natural objects simply don't possess. The implications hit the research community like a thunderbolt. If 3I Atlas B was indeed maneuvering under its own power, it would represent the first confirmed evidence of artificial objects operating in our solar system. The possibility that humanity had unknowingly been hosting extraterrestrial visitors for months sent emergency meetings into session at space agencies around the globe. Within hours of the discovery, classified briefings were being held at NASA headquarters, the European Space Agency, and observatories across 3 continents. The information was initially restricted to a small circle of senior researchers and government officials, but leaks were inevitable. By September 28th, rumors were spreading through scientific forums and social media platforms faster than official denials could be issued. The leaked information painted a picture that seemed lifted from science fiction. Multiple independent observations had confirmed the existence of 3I Atlas B, with facilities in Australia, South Africa, and Hawaii, all detecting the same anomalous signals. More disturbing still were reports that the object appeared to be communicating with its larger companion through structured electromagnetic emissions that followed no known natural pattern. Dr. Michael Thornton, a plasma physicist at MIT who had been analyzing the collision data, went public with his findings despite intense pressure from government liaisons. His press conference on September 30th sent shockwaves through both the scientific community and the general public. Thornton presented evidence that 3IATLASB was not only maneuvering independently, but appeared to be conducting systematic scans of our solar system's major planets. The scanning pattern, according to Thornton's analysis, suggested an intelligence-gathering operation of unprecedented scope. The object's trajectory adjustments positioned it for optimal observation of Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, with each maneuver timed to maximize data collection opportunities. The precision required for such complex navigation implied technology far beyond current human capabilities. Government responses varied dramatically across different nations. The United States immediately classified all further observations of 3IATLASB under national security protocols, while the European Union called for unprecedented international cooperation in monitoring the situation. China announced the activation of its deep space tracking network, and Russia quietly repositioned several military satellites to observe the object's approach to Mars. The public reaction was swift and polarized. Conspiracy theorists declared vindication of decades-old claims about extraterrestrial visitation, while skeptics demanded more rigorous proof before accepting such extraordinary conclusions. Social media platforms struggled to contain the flood of speculation, misinformation, and genuine scientific discussion that erupted in the wake of Thornton's revelations. Religious leaders found themselves grappling with theological implications they had never seriously considered. If intelligent life from other star systems was indeed visiting our solar system, what did that mean for humanity's understanding of its place in creation? Emergency sessions were convened at the Vatican while Islamic scholars debated whether the Quran's references to life throughout the heavens had been more literal than previously interpreted. The stock market responded with characteristic volatility. Defense contractors saw their shares skyrocket as investors speculated about potential military applications of extraterrestrial technology. Space exploration companies experienced similar surges, while traditional energy sectors faced uncertainty about whether alien visitors might possess revolutionary propulsion or power generation systems. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, 3IATLAS and its mysterious companion continued their relentless approach toward our sun. The larger object maintained its spectacular green glow, now enhanced by the effects of its CME collision, while 3IATLASB remained virtually invisible to optical telescopes, detectable only through its radio emissions and gravitational perturbations. Amateur astronomers around the world turned their equipment skyward, hoping to catch a glimpse of humanity's first confirmed extraterrestrial visitors. Photography forums exploded with images claiming to show the objects, though most were quickly debunked as lens flares, satellites, or wishful thinking. The few legitimate captures showed 3IATLAS as a fuzzy green smudge against the star field, with no visible trace of its enigmatic companion. The scientific community found itself divided into increasingly hostile camps. Traditional astronomers insisted that insufficient evidence existed to conclude anything beyond natural phenomena, pointing to the lack of optical confirmation and the possibility of instrumental errors in the radio observations. A growing faction of researchers argued that the electromagnetic signatures were too structured and persistent to dismiss as measurement artifacts. Dr. Sarah Hoffman, director of the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex, attempted to mediate between the competing theories. Her facility had been tracking both objects since their discovery, and the data painted a complex picture that defied simple explanations. While 3IATLASB's radio emissions did show patterns suggesting artificial origin, the signals remained within the realm of what advanced natural processes might theoretically produce. The debate intensified when Hoffman's team detected what appeared to be communication attempts directed toward Earth. The signals, transmitted on frequencies commonly used for deep space communication, contained mathematical sequences that seemed designed to demonstrate intelligence. Prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, and geometric progressions were embedded in the transmissions, arranged in patterns that suggested deliberate construction. However, the signals were frustratingly brief and intermittent, appearing for minutes at a time before vanishing for hours or days. This inconsistency allowed skeptics to argue that the patterns were coincidental, while believers insisted that the intermittent nature suggested caution on the part of the transmitting intelligence. The situation became even more complex when observatories in the southern hemisphere reported detecting additional objects in the vicinity of 3 Cygaloid's Atlas. These tertiary contacts, designated 3 Ace Atlas C through 3I Atlas F, appeared to be even smaller than the secondary object, but showed similar anomalous movement patterns. The possibility that Earth was being visited not by a single artifact, but by an entire fleet of extraterrestrial probes sent emergency preparedness agencies into overdrive. Military installations around the world quietly activated protocols designed for scenarios that had previously existed only in classified war games and science fiction novels. Deep space radar arrays were repurposed to track the approaching objects, while space-based assets were redirected to provide continuous monitoring. The public remained largely unaware of these preparations, as government officials struggled to balance transparency with the need to prevent widespread panic. The approaching Mars flyby took on new significance as the primary opportunity to gather definitive evidence about the object's nature. Multiple spacecraft positioned around the red planet were reprogrammed with new observation protocols designed to detect signs of artificial construction or controlled movement. The stakes could not have been higher, as the data collected during this encounter might provide humanity's first conclusive proof that we are not alone in the universe. As October progressed and the objects drew closer to Mars, tension within the scientific community reached a breaking point. Leaked communications between government agencies spoke of contingency plans and defensive measures, while public statements continued to emphasize caution and the need for further verification. The disconnect between official reassurances and behind-the-scenes activity became increasingly difficult to maintain. The world held its breath as 3 IATLAS and its mysterious companions approached their rendezvous with the Red Planet, carrying with them the potential to answer one of humanity's most fundamental questions. But with each passing day, it became clearer that the answers they provided might be far more complex and unsettling than anyone had dared to imagine. The Mars encounter began at precisely 4 a.m. UTC on October 3, 2025, but what unfolded over the following 72 hours would shatter every assumption humanity had about our cosmic visitors. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-rise camera, positioned for optimal observation, began transmitting data that left mission controllers speechless. Instead of the expected fuzzy images of distant objects, the high-resolution photographs revealed details that no one was prepared to see. 3. I-Atlas appeared exactly as predicted, a massive, irregularly shaped body glowing with its characteristic green emissions. But 3 I-Atlas B, the mysterious secondary object, presented an entirely different picture. The enhanced imagery revealed geometric patterns across its surface that bore no resemblance to natural formation processes. Straight lines intersected at precise angles, creating what could only be described as artificial structures embedded within or attached to the object's exterior. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the lead imaging specialist for the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter team, found herself staring at photographs that challenged her understanding of reality. The surface features showed a level of geometric precision that exceeded anything produced by natural weathering, impact cratering, or tectonic processes. More unsettling still were the apparent openings or ports distributed across the object's surface, dark circular features that seemed to serve some functional purpose. The revelation sent shockwaves through the hastily assembled crisis management teams monitoring the encounter. Within hours, the images were being analyzed by specialists from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the European Space Agency's Technical Center, and classified facilities whose very existence remained officially denied. Each analysis reached the same inevitable conclusion. They were looking at the evidence of artificial construction on an interstellar scale, but the visual confirmation was only the beginning. As 3 Astoi ATLASB passed within optimal range of the orbiting spacecraft, its electromagnetic emissions intensified dramatically. The structured signals that had been detected sporadically since the CME collision now became a constant stream of data transmission, overwhelming radio telescopes across the Mars system and extending back to Earth-based facilities. The signal analysis revealed patterns of staggering complexity. Unlike the simple mathematical sequences detected earlier, these transmissions contained what appeared to be compressed information packets, data streams, encoded in formats that suggested advanced computational systems. Teams of cryptographers and signal processing experts worked around the clock, attempting to decode messages that might represent humanity's first communication with an extraterrestrial intelligence. Dr. Hassan al-Rashid, a specialist in information theory at the European Southern Observatory, made the first breakthrough in the decoding process. His team identified recurring patterns within the signal structure that corresponded to known physical constants: the speed of light, Planck's constant, and the fine structure constant. These universal values, embedded within the transmissions, seemed designed to establish a common mathematical foundation for communication. But as the decoding progressed, the content became increasingly disturbing. The messages appeared to contain detailed scans of Earth's electromagnetic spectrum, precise measurements of our planet's atmospheric composition, and what could only be described as inventories of human technological capabilities. The implications were staggering. These visitors hadn't simply stumbled across our solar system by chance. They had been systematically studying us. The tertiary objects designated 3I Atlas Cs through 3I Atlas F revealed their own secrets during the Mars encounter. High-resolution tracking showed that these smaller companions were executing complex formation flights, maintaining precise distances and orientations relative to each other and the primary objects. The mathematical precision of their movements suggested a level of coordination that could only be achieved through advanced artificial intelligence or direct control by a sophisticated command system. More alarming was the discovery that several of these smaller objects had detached from the main formation and were executing independent trajectories that would bring them closer to Earth's orbital path. While still months away from any potential encounter, the trajectory calculations showed that these breakaway objects were positioning themselves for detailed observation of our planet during its winter months. The international response to these revelations varied dramatically. The United Nations Security Council convened emergency sessions behind closed doors, while member nations struggled to develop unified policies for an unprecedented situation. Some delegates argued for immediate attempts at formal communication, while others advocated for defensive preparations against potentially hostile intentions. The United States activated contingency protocols that had been theoretical since the Cold War era, repositioning military satellites and activating deep space monitoring systems that had been dormant for decades. Russia responded by announcing the acceleration of several classified space programs, while China quietly began construction of what appeared to be large-scale radio transmission facilities in remote regions. Public awareness of the true situation remained limited as government agencies struggled to control information flow while preparing for possibilities that ranged from peaceful first contact to existential threat scenarios. Official statements continued to emphasize ongoing investigation and the need for careful analysis, but leaked information and unofficial sources painted increasingly dramatic pictures of humanity's first encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence. The scientific community found itself thrust into an impossible position. Researchers who had spent careers studying distant galaxies and theoretical physics suddenly became key figures in determining humanity's response to visiting intelligences. The peer review process, designed for careful evaluation of research over months or years, was compressed into days as critical decisions required immediate scientific input. Dr. Maria Santos, a xenobiologist who had previously focused on extremophile organisms in Earth's most hostile environments, found her expertise suddenly relevant to questions about alien life. Her analysis of the object's behavior patterns suggested intelligence far beyond anything terrestrial evolution had produced, with coordination capabilities that implied collective consciousness or advanced artificial intelligence systems. The psychological impact on the research teams was profound. Scientists trained to approach problems with methodical skepticism were confronted with evidence that demanded acceptance of conclusions that seemed impossible just weeks earlier. Support systems were established to help researchers cope with the implications of their discoveries, as many struggled with the realization that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Meanwhile, 3I Atlas continued its inexorable journey toward perihelion, its massive bulk now accompanied by a growing entourage of smaller objects that defied every attempt at natural explanation. The green glow that had initially seemed like simple cometary activity now appeared more complex, with variations in intensity and color that suggested controlled processes rather than passive sublimation. Spectroscopic analysis revealed that the emissions were shifting in response to external stimuli, particularly radio transmissions from Earth-based facilities. When powerful radar installations attempted to scan the objects, the electromagnetic response showed characteristics of active reflection rather than passive scattering. The objects appeared to be not just receiving our signals, but analyzing and responding to them in real time. The approaching solar encounter took on new significance as scientists realized that 3 IAATLAS would disappear behind solar glare precisely when its activity levels should reach maximum intensity. The timing seemed almost calculated to prevent detailed observation during what might be the most revealing phase of its visit. Some researchers began to suspect that the objects were deliberately using our sun's overwhelming brightness as cover for activities they preferred to keep hidden. Ground-based observatories prepared for the most intensive monitoring campaign in astronomical history, positioning instruments around the globe to maintain continuous observation until the final moments before solar interference made tracking impossible. Every major facility from Mauna Kea to the Atacama Desert was recruited for the effort, while space-based telescopes adjusted their orbits to extend observation windows as long as possible. The amateur astronomy community mobilized with unprecedented coordination, creating networks of observers who would attempt to track the object's positions even when professional facilities lost contact. Online forums buzzed with technical discussions about equipment modifications and observation strategies, as citizen scientists recognized their potential role in documenting humanity's first confirmed encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence. Religious communities worldwide grappled with theological implications that had moved from theoretical discussion to immediate reality. Emergency councils convened to address questions about divine creation, humanity's special status, and the meaning of existence in a universe clearly populated by other intelligent beings. Some denominations embraced the discoveries as confirmation of cosmic diversity, while others struggled to reconcile their doctrines with evidence of non-terrestrial intelligence. The economic implications began manifesting as markets worldwide struggled to price assets in a reality where extraterrestrial technology might render entire industries obsolete overnight. Defense contractors saw valuations soar, while energy companies faced uncertainty about whether alien propulsion systems might revolutionize transportation and power generation. Academic institutions scrambled to establish xenology departments and alien communication protocols, recognizing that entire new fields of study were emerging. As October progressed toward the critical solar encounter, tension mounted not just within scientific circles, but across human civilization. The objects approaching our sun carried with them the potential to answer fundamental questions about life, intelligence, and humanity's place in the cosmic order. But with each new revelation, it became increasingly clear that those answers might be more complex and challenging than anyone had imagined. The stage was set for a confrontation between human understanding and alien intelligence that would unfold in the most hostile environment of our solar system, hidden behind the blazing curtain of our sun's overwhelming radiance. Whatever emerged from that cosmic crucible would determine not just scientific knowledge, but the future trajectory of human civilization itself. The final weeks before perihelion became a countdown, not just to a celestial event, but to a potential transformation of human consciousness on a scale not seen since our species first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. The answer to that ancient question was approaching at 137,000 miles per hour, carrying with it implications that would resonate through every aspect of human existence for generations to come. The discovery of artificial structures on 3NOS ATLASB triggered something unprecedented in human history. For the first time since our species developed the capacity for complex thought, we were forced to confront the reality that intelligence existed beyond our pale blue dot. But what happened next would test every assumption we held about how first contact might unfold. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, operating the Deep Space Network facility in Goldstone, California, was monitoring the routine data stream from Mars when her equipment registered something that made her blood run cold. The structured electromagnetic emissions from 3IATLASB weren't just random transmissions anymore. They had become responsive, adapting their patterns based on the signals we were sending into space. When the Arecibo successor facility in Puerto Rico transmitted a test sequence of prime numbers toward the objects, The response came back within hours, not as an echo, but as the next sequence in the mathematical progression. When the European Space Agency broadcast the Fibonacci sequence, the reply contained advanced mathematical theorems that human mathematicians were still working to verify. The implications were staggering and terrifying in equal measure. The objects weren't just visiting our solar system. They were engaging in active communication, demonstrating mathematical knowledge that exceeded our own capabilities. More disturbing still was the precision of their responses, suggesting they had been monitoring our transmissions long enough to understand not just our mathematical systems, but our communication protocols and technological limitations. By October 15th, the situation had evolved far beyond scientific curiosity into what could only be described as a diplomatic crisis involving non-human intelligence. The objects maintained their approach toward perihelion while continuing to transmit increasingly complex data streams that seemed designed to test the limits of human comprehension. Each decoded message revealed deeper layers of information about their origins, capabilities, and potentially their intentions. The breakthrough in translation came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kenji Nakamura, a linguist specializing in ancient dead languages at Tokyo University, applied techniques he had developed for deciphering fragmentary texts to the alien transmissions. His approach, treating the signals as linguistic rather than purely mathematical constructs, revealed patterns that suggested narrative structure within the data streams. The first complete message that emerged from Nakamura's translation efforts contained information that fundamentally altered humanity's understanding of our cosmic neighborhood. The transmission identified 3 I-Atlas and its companions as representatives of what they termed the Wanderer Collective, a network of intelligences that had been traversing the galaxy for millions of years, studying the development of emerging civilizations. According to the decoded messages, Earth had been under observation for approximately 50,000 years, with periodic monitoring missions launched whenever human development reached significant technological milestones. Our development of radio communication in the early 20th century had triggered the current visitation, with 3 IATLAS dispatched from a facility located somewhere in the galaxy's outer spiral arm, specifically to conduct close-range assessment of human capabilities. The revelation that we had been watched for millennia sent shockwaves through every level of human society. Religious leaders struggled to reconcile their teachings with evidence that humanity's entire recorded history had unfolded under alien observation. Governments faced the nightmare scenario of managing public reaction to the knowledge that our most significant achievements and darkest moments had been cataloged by non-human intelligence. But perhaps most unsettling was the implication that our current technological development had crossed some threshold that warranted direct intervention. The messages suggested that humanity was approaching what the Wanderer Collective termed a critical transition point, where our species would either evolve toward cosmic citizenship or face extinction through our own technological capabilities. The timing of the visitation appeared to be no coincidence. The objects had arrived during a period when human civilization faced unprecedented challenges from climate change, resource depletion, and the potential for nuclear conflict. According to the translated communications, Similar transition periods had been observed across thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy, with outcomes varying dramatically based on how emerging species responded to the knowledge of their cosmic context. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a philosopher of science at Oxford University, found herself thrust into the center of discussions about how humanity should respond to these revelations. Her analysis of the alien communications suggested that we were being presented with something resembling a test, where our reaction to confirmed extraterrestrial contact would determine our species' future relationship with the broader galactic community. The messages indicated that civilizations demonstrating wisdom, cooperation, and peaceful intentions during first contact were eventually integrated into the Wanderer Collective's network of knowledge and technology sharing. Those displaying aggression, paranoia, or destructive tendencies were quietly isolated and left to work through their developmental challenges independently, sometimes for thousands of years, before receiving another visitation opportunity. The pressure on world leaders became immense as they realized that humanity's response during the next few weeks might determine our species' trajectory for millennia. Emergency sessions at the United Nations devolved into heated debates about how to present a unified human response when our species remained deeply divided on virtually every significant issue. Meanwhile, in space, the objects continued their relentless approach toward our sun. The smaller companions that had broken away from the main formation were now clearly visible to major observatories, their trajectories calculated to bring them within Earth's orbital vicinity during the winter months. Their purpose remained unclear, but the precision of their navigation suggested they were positioning themselves for extended observation of our planet. The public reaction to leaked information about the true nature of our visitors created social upheaval on a scale not seen since major world wars. Some communities embraced the revelations as validation of long-held beliefs about extraterrestrial life, while others rejected the evidence entirely, viewing it as elaborate deception by government agencies or foreign powers. Religious movements sprang up overnight, with some proclaiming the visitors as divine messengers, while others denounced them as harbingers of apocalypse. Educational institutions found themselves overwhelmed by demands for information about astrobiology, xenolinguistics, and interstellar communication, fields that had been largely theoretical just weeks earlier. Universities scrambled to establish new departments and recruit experts in areas that barely existed, while existing faculty struggled to adapt curricula to address questions that had never before required practical answers. The economic implications rippled through global markets as investors attempted to position themselves for a future that might include access to alien technology. Traditional industries faced existential questions about their relevance in a world where extraterrestrial engineering might render current manufacturing, transportation, and energy systems obsolete overnight. But perhaps the most profound impact was psychological. Mental health professionals reported unprecedented demand for counseling services as individuals struggled to process the implications of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence. Support groups formed spontaneously in communities worldwide as people grappled with feelings of cosmic insignificance, excitement about future possibilities, and fear about humanity's ability to navigate this unprecedented challenge. The amateur radio community played an unexpected role in the unfolding drama as operators worldwide began detecting and recording the alien transmissions using equipment far more modest than professional observatories. Their distributed network of receivers provided continuous monitoring capabilities that complemented official observations, while their expertise in signal processing contributed to the ongoing translation efforts. Children, paradoxically, seemed to adapt most readily to the new reality. Schools reported that students were embracing the possibility of alien contact with curiosity rather than fear, asking practical questions about interstellar travel, alien languages, and the possibility of future cultural exchange. Their reactions suggested that younger generations might be better equipped psychologically to navigate a universe populated by multiple intelligent species. The approaching perihelion created a sense of urgency that permeated every aspect of the response effort. Scientists knew that the objects would disappear behind solar glare for several weeks during their closest approach to the Sun, potentially emerging with altered characteristics or capabilities. The possibility that this hidden phase might involve activities we couldn't observe or understand added another layer of tension to an already unprecedented situation. Intelligence agencies worldwide activated protocols designed for scenarios that had previously existed only in classified war games and speculative fiction. Deep space monitoring facilities that had been constructed during the Cold War for detecting missile launches found new purpose-tracking objects whose intentions remained fundamentally unknowable. The Vatican announced the formation of a special theological commission to address the religious implications of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence, while Islamic scholars debated whether the Quran's references to life throughout creation had been more literal than previously interpreted. Buddhist communities seemed most adaptable to the revelations, with many leaders expressing that the existence of other intelligent beings aligned well with their understanding of cosmic consciousness. As October progressed toward the critical solar encounter, every major observatory on Earth and in space focused their instruments on the approaching objects. The data being collected would likely represent humanity's most comprehensive observation of confirmed extraterrestrial artifacts, but the knowledge that the objects would soon vanish behind solar glare created pressure to extract every possible piece of information before losing contact. The final decoded messages before perihelion contained what appeared to be instructions or guidance for humanity's continued development. The transmissions emphasized the importance of planetary stewardship, peaceful resolution of conflicts, and the development of technologies that enhanced rather than threatened biological life. The tone suggested not conquest or control, but rather mentorship from beings who had observed similar transitions across countless worlds. Yet questions remained about the Wanderer Collective's ultimate intentions. Were they truly benevolent observers seeking to guide emerging civilizations toward cosmic citizenship, or did their long-term goals involve outcomes that might not align with human interests? The objects' advanced capabilities and sophisticated monitoring systems suggested they possessed the power to influence human development in ways we might not recognize or understand. The approaching disappearance behind solar glare took on symbolic significance as humanity prepared to lose visual contact with our visitors at precisely the moment when their activity levels should reach maximum intensity. The timing seemed almost calculated to test our patience and trust, forcing us to wait weeks or months for their reappearance, while wondering what transformations might be occurring in the hidden crucible of our sun's overwhelming radiance. Scientific teams prepared for the most intensive post-emergence observation campaign in human history, recognizing that whatever emerged from behind the sun might be fundamentally different from what had gone in. The objects might fragment, merge, or transform in ways that would provide crucial insights into their true nature and capabilities. The psychological preparation proved as important as the technical arrangements. Humanity was about to lose sight of confirmed extraterrestrial visitors for the first time since becoming aware of their presence, creating an unprecedented test of our species' ability to maintain focus and cooperation while dealing with cosmic-scale uncertainty. As the final days before perihelion ticked away, the world held its breath, knowing that the next phase of this unprecedented encounter would unfold in the darkness behind our sun, hidden from human observation, but potentially determining the future trajectory of our entire civilization. The objects that had shattered our understanding of our place in the universe were about to vanish into solar glare, carrying with them secrets that might reshape everything we thought we knew about intelligence, technology, and our cosmic destiny. The countdown to perihelion became more than an astronomical event. It marked humanity's transition from a species that wondered about extraterrestrial life to one that must learn to navigate relationships with intelligences whose capabilities and intentions remained fundamentally mysterious. Whatever emerged from that solar crucible would determine whether our first contact experience would be remembered as humanity's greatest triumph or its most challenging test. The final transmission from 3IATLAS came at 23:47 UTC on October 28th, just hours before the object would disappear behind our sun's blazing corona. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, monitoring the Deep Space Network's Madrid facility, watched as her screens filled with data streams unlike anything previously recorded. These weren't the structured mathematical sequences or linguistic patterns that had characterized earlier communications. This was something entirely different, something that would haunt her dreams for months to come. The transmission contained what could only be described as a star map, but not of our local galactic neighborhood. The coordinates referenced star systems thousands of light years away, many containing spectral signatures that suggested artificial modification, solar collectors wrapping entire stars, planetary rings that showed geometric patterns impossible to achieve through natural accretion, Dyson swarms harvesting stellar energy on scales that dwarf the output of entire galaxies. But the most disturbing element wasn't the evidence of galactic engineering. It was the timeline embedded within the data. The coordinates were dated, showing the progression of these megastructures across millions of years. And in every case, the pattern was identical. Star systems would show signs of emerging intelligence, develop basic spacefaring capabilities, then suddenly explode into massive construction projects that consumed entire solar systems within centuries. Dr. Marcus Webb, analyzing the transmission from CERN's quantum computing facility, made the connection that would send emergency protocols cascading through government agencies worldwide. The timeline wasn't random. It followed a precise schedule, with new star systems undergoing transformation at regular intervals measured in thousands of years. And according to the embedded calculations, Earth's solar system was next on the list. The implications hit the scientific community like a physical blow. The Wanderer Collective wasn't just observing emerging civilizations. They were harvesting them, integrating their biological and technological distinctiveness into a galactic network that had been growing for millions of years. The benevolent mentors described in earlier transmissions were revealed as something far more sinister, cosmic gardeners tending a galaxy-wide farm of intelligent species. The revelation came too late to change humanity's response. 3I Atlas and its companions vanished behind solar glare at 4:33 UTC on October 29th, taking with them any opportunity for further communication or negotiation. The objects that had promised cosmic citizenship had delivered instead a death sentence disguised as enlightenment. Emergency sessions convened in underground bunkers as world leaders grappled with intelligence that redefined humanity's survival priorities. The peaceful first contact scenario that had dominated planning gave way to contingency protocols designed for existential threats. Military satellites were repositioned, deep space monitoring arrays activated, and classified weapon systems brought online for the first time since their construction. Dr. Sarah Chen, now coordinating the global response effort from NORAD's Cheyenne Mountain Complex, found herself managing resources on a scale that made previous international cooperation efforts seem trivial. Every major observatory, space agency, and research institution was mobilized for a single purpose: determining exactly what humanity faced when the objects emerged from their solar hiding place. The psychological impact on the research teams was devastating. Scientists who had spent weeks celebrating humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence now faced the possibility that they had been documenting their own species' evaluation for cosmic assimilation. Support systems established for managing the wonder of discovery were rapidly converted to crisis counseling as the full implications became clear. But perhaps most unsettling was the realization that the object's behavior patterns suddenly made perfect sense. The systematic scanning of our planetary systems, the precise positioning of smaller companions near Earth's orbital path, the responsive communication that had seemed so encouraging. All of it now appeared to be reconnaissance activities preparing for something far more comprehensive than peaceful observation. The amateur astronomy community, which had been documenting the objects with excitement and wonder, found their observations taking on ominous significance. Every photograph, every spectroscopic measurement, every trajectory calculation now represented potential intelligence about humanity's evaluators. Online forums that had buzzed with excitement about first contact transformed into coordination centers for resistance planning. Religious communities struggled with revelations that challenged not just their understanding of creation, but their fundamental concepts of good and evil. If the universe contained intelligences capable of galactic-scale manipulation, what did that mean for concepts of divine protection or moral order? Emergency councils convened to address theological implications that made previous interfaith dialogues seem trivial by comparison. The economic implications transcended market volatility into existential questions about human civilization's continued existence. If the Wanderer Collective intended to harvest our solar system's resources and integrate our species into their network, traditional concepts of national sovereignty, property rights, and individual freedom became meaningless. Governments began activating wartime economies while simultaneously attempting to maintain social stability. Children's reactions proved most revealing about humanity's psychological adaptability. Rather than panic, many young people displayed remarkable resilience, asking practical questions about resistance strategies, evacuation possibilities, and the technical aspects of interstellar conflict. Their responses suggested that younger generations might be better equipped to navigate the psychological challenges of cosmic-scale threats. The approaching perihelion passage took on entirely new significance, as scientists realized they were witnessing not just an astronomical event, but potentially the final phase of humanity's evaluation process. Whatever transformations occurred during the object's hidden solar encounter might determine whether our species faced immediate assimilation or received additional time to prepare defenses. Intelligence agencies worldwide activated networks that had been dormant since the Cold War, repurposing espionage capabilities for monitoring extraterrestrial activities. The possibility that the objects might establish permanent installations within our solar system during their solar passage required preparation for surveillance challenges that exceeded anything in human experience. The Vatican's Theological Commission found itself addressing questions that transcended religious doctrine into fundamental philosophy about consciousness, free will, and the nature of existence itself. If humanity faced absorption into a galactic collective intelligence, what happened to individual souls, personal identity, and spiritual growth? These weren't academic discussions, but practical concerns about survival strategies for human consciousness. Scientific teams prepared for post-emergence observations with equipment that had been hastily modified for detecting signs of construction. The objects might, resource extraction, or technological deployment emerge from their solar encounter fundamentally transformed, carrying new capabilities, or accompanied by additional artifacts that could reshape the balance of power in our solar system. The psychological preparation proved as critical as technical arrangements. Humanity was about to lose visual contact with confirmed threats for the first time since recognizing their true nature, creating unprecedented challenges for maintaining social cohesion while facing cosmic-scale uncertainty. Mental health professionals reported overwhelming demand for services as individuals struggled to process the possibility of species-wide extinction or assimilation. Underground facilities that had been constructed during previous existential crises were activated and expanded to house essential personnel and resources. The possibility that humanity might need to survive for scenarios that exceeded as a hidden resistance movement required preparation, the scope of previous disaster planning. Seed banks, knowledge repositories, and communication networks were established in locations designed to survive even massive solar system modifications. The amateur radio community discovered new purpose as coordinators of decentralized communication networks that might survive the destruction of conventional infrastructure. Their distributed systems and technical expertise became crucial components of resistance planning, providing capabilities that complemented official emergency protocols. As October 29th approached, the final day before perihelion passage, every major monitoring facility on Earth focused their instruments on the approaching objects. The data being collected might represent humanity's last opportunity to observe the entities that could determine our species' future, but the knowledge that they would soon vanish behind solar glare created desperate urgency to extract every possible detail. The objects maintained their course with mechanical precision, their electromagnetic emissions growing stronger as they approached maximum solar heating. But the patterns within those emissions had changed, becoming more complex and purposeful. Advanced analysis suggested they were no longer communicating with Earth, but coordinating among themselves, preparing for activities that would unfold hidden from human observation. Ground-based observatories reported unusual activity in the smaller objects that had positioned themselves near Earth's orbital path. Rather than maintaining passive observation positions, several companions appeared to be deploying previously undetected structures, expanding their effective size and capabilities in ways that suggested preparation for extended operations within our solar system. The final hours before solar disappearance became a countdown not just to an astronomical event, but to humanity's transition from observers to potential victims of cosmic-scale intelligence. Scientists knew that whatever emerged from behind our sun might be fundamentally different from what had entered, possibly carrying capabilities that could overwhelm any resistance humanity might mount. The last confirmed observation of 3I ATLAS came from the Parker Solar Probe, humanity's closest approach to our sun, as the massive object swept past at a distance that should have vaporized any natural comet. Instead, the probe's instruments detected structural integrity that defied explanation, along with energy signatures that suggested active shielding systems, solar glare, beginning what would become protecting the object's interior from solar radiation that would destroy conventional materials. At 4:33 UTC on October 29, 2025, the objects vanished into known as the Hidden Passage. For the next several weeks, humanity would wait in growing anxiety for their reappearance, knowing that whatever emerged might determine whether our species faced extinction, assimilation, or an unprecedented test of our survival capabilities. The silence that followed their disappearance was more ominous than any transmission they had sent. For the first time in months, our solar system's radio spectrum was clear of artificial signals from interstellar sources. But rather than relief, this quiet brought only dread, as every scientist monitoring the situation understood that the absence of communication might mean the visitors no longer needed to gather information about their targets. The world entered a period of unprecedented global cooperation mixed with existential terror as humanity prepared for challenges that transcended every previous crisis in our species' history. Whatever emerged from behind our sun would find a world united by necessity, but divided by fear, ready to fight for survival against odds that exceeded human comprehension. The Hidden Passage had begun, and with it, the most dangerous phase of humanity's first contact with cosmic intelligence. The countdown to emergence became a countdown to our species' ultimate test of survival, adaptation, and resistance against forces that had been perfecting their methods across millions of years and thousands of worlds. In the depths of space, hidden behind the blazing curtain of our sun's corona, 3I ATLAS and its companions continued their ancient work, preparing to transform our solar system in ways that would determine whether humanity joined the ranks of cosmic citizens or became another data point in the Wanderer Collective's galactic catalog of successful assimilations. The next phase of this unprecedented encounter would unfold in darkness and fire, beyond human observation, but within the reach of consequences that could reshape everything our species had ever known about survival, consciousness, and our place in a universe far more dangerous than we had ever imagined. So here we are, standing at the precipice of the most profound moment in human history. What started as a routine coronal mass ejection hitting an interstellar visitor has revealed something that challenges everything we thought we knew about our cosmic neighborhood. 3I Atlas wasn't just a wandering chunk of ancient ice and rock. It was a reconnaissance mission from intelligences that have been harvesting civilizations across our galaxy for millions of years. The evidence is undeniable. The structured communications, the artificial companions, the systematic scanning of our planetary systems, and finally that chilling star map showing thousands of solar systems consumed by cosmic engineering projects. The Wanderer Collective isn't here to guide us toward enlightenment. They're here to evaluate us for assimilation into a galactic network that treats entire species as resources to be harvested. And now they're hidden behind our sun, beyond our ability to observe or communicate with them, potentially undergoing transformations that will determine our species' fate. When they emerge in the coming weeks, we may face the ultimate test of human ingenuity, cooperation, and survival instinct. The collision with that coronal mass ejection didn't just awaken an ancient comet. It awakened humanity to the reality that we're not alone in the universe, and we're definitely not safe. The question isn't whether we're ready for what comes next. The question is whether we can become ready fast enough to matter. The hidden passage has begun. Our cosmic evaluation is underway, and whatever emerges from behind our sun will determine whether humanity writes the next chapter of our story or becomes a footnote in someone else's galactic catalog. The universe just got a lot more dangerous and a lot more interesting. Stay vigilant.